While there isn't exactly a streamlined formula for every outreach email you send, I want to talk about the anatomy of a simple outreach email that has been effective for me for many years now. And there are 5 main parts to a typical outreach email. First is the subject line. The goal of the subject line is simply to get them to open the email. Otherwise, there's no chance at getting a response. But you don't want to clickbait them because that'll only leave a bad impression. So when you're writing a subject line, you want to briefly and accurately describe why you're emailing them and ideally evoke curiosity. If we look back at my guest blogging outreach email from the previous lesson, I showed you a hypothetical pitch where I asked if I could write a post for a golf site and share data I have on the best golf balls for high handicappers. So I might use a subject line like, new data, best balls for high handicappers. In my opinion, the new data part evokes curiosity and the rest of the subject line explains the topic of the email. The next part is the introduction. And while there are numerous ways to write an intro, I think it's best to start by telling them why you're emailing them. And the goal of this part is to get them to read the next part of the email. For example, with our guest posting sample email, I said, I was digging through your site and saw that you have a couple of posts on the best golf balls for kids and for distance. But I was pretty surprised to see that you don't have one for other types of players, i.e. seniors. Now, I will admit that the first sentence could definitely be stronger, but I'm basically saying that you've done this and this, but looks like you're missing out on an opportunity here. The next part of the email is qualification and justification. Simply asking someone for a favor and expecting them to see a mutual benefit is naive. You need to show them why you're qualified and justify the pitch that we'll get to in a second. For example, if you're contacting someone to guest post, then explain why they should accept your post over potentially hundreds of other submissions. If you're asking them to add your link to a page on their site, give them an actual good reason why they should. So in our guest posting sample, you'll see that I said, being a high handicapper myself, I spent hundreds of dollars on balls and countless hours on launch monitors to find the best ball for me. So the fact that A, I mentioned I'm a high handicapper, and B, I've tested numerous balls and gotten factual data from launch monitors qualifies and justifies what I'm about to pitch, which again is a guest post about the best golf balls for high handicappers. Now, to really drill in on the concept of qualification and justification, let's look at an example email for the skyscraper technique. A little while back, we did some outreach to get links to our blog post on SEO statistics. So we emailed people with an email that looks something like this. Hi name, I saw you mentioned how 93% of online experiences begin with a search engine on your page about how to do keyword research. That's our reason for contact. We then went on to say, that stat is actually 14 years old. More recent research suggests that this number has gone down to 68%. I think it's lower because social and other sources now account for around 1/3 of traffic. That's our qualification and justification for what we're about to pitch. And obviously, the next part of the email is the pitch. The pitch essentially includes your ask as well as your value proposition. And generally speaking, the stronger your value proposition, the higher the chance of getting a link. So for a guest posting example, I said, if you're open, I'd love to write a post for you about how to find the best golf balls for hacky golfers like myself. And here's my value proposition.